ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Dear friends, today I will talk about a brief introduction to the Upanishads. What is the meaning of Upanishad? What is their importance? And what are the important terms used in Upanishad? I will explain briefly. The Upanishad constitute the end part of the four Vedas, namely the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and Atharvaveda. Hence they are also known as Vedanta, meaning end part of the Vedas, the last part of the Vedas. They represent the highest thought of the Vedic religion and so also Hinduism. The Vedanta school of philosophy is derived mainly from the knowledge of the Upanishads only. It has many branches such as the Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, Advaita and so on. All these schools acknowledge Brahma as the highest supreme reality and the whole creation as his manifestation, emanation or projection, representing the alternate reality or the illusion, that is Maya. Understanding Brahma and our relationship with him is crucial to spiritualize our lives and achieve liberation by practicing dharma and exemplifying God's eternal duties upon earth. See, Brahma and Atma. Just try to understand. Water. Water you take from ocean, sea, a pond, a well, or just one glass of water. The constituent part of water are 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. Same way, soul and Brahman cannot be separated, as water contained in a tumbler or water contained in a vast ocean is same. Same way, our soul and Brahman, God is same. So, very simple thing, but very important. The meaning of the word Upanishad. What does the name of a Upanishad stands for? 2 possible traditional meanings have been ascribed to the word Upanishad. According to the first, Upanishad means sitting near or down. One is the preceptor, guru, teacher, and the other one is the pupil, the disciple or shishya. So when the shishya is sitting near to his guru, we call a teaching is given to the pupil who is sitting nearby to his guru. It refers to the way the Upanishads were taught to the students in ancient India. The knowledge of the Upanishads was confined to a few teachers who were either Kshatriyas or Brahmanas. They directly passed on the knowledge in person to a few select students according to their merit and under an oath of secrecy. Since the knowledge was taught to students who sat near the master at a lower level or at his feet, while the master sat on a higher seat, that is asana. His teaching was called Upanishad. That means teaching imparted to a student who is sitting near to the percept. Since secrecy was associated with the teachings, the knowledge of the Upanishad is also known as the secret knowledge, good knowledge, at most secret knowledge. That is ati good. Why it is secret? See, anything which cannot be seen or felt by our organs of knowledge, so that is secret, because we believe things which can be seen by our eyes or can be experienced by our sense of organs. Otherwise, everything is secret only. So the knowledge of Upanishad is also known as secret knowledge, because everything discussed in Upanishad is not manifested in some form. It is all in subtle form. It is invisible to the eyes, hence it is termed as secret knowledge. According to the second interpretation, Upanishad means the knowledge which destroys the bonds of ignorance and leads to liberation. The knowledge of the Upanishad is essentially the knowledge of Supreme Self, that is Brahman, and the individual self, Atman. Atman and Brahman in reality is same. There is no difference. But only thing, when the same self is confined in a body, so that is known as Jiva. Okay. Knowledge of these two eternal realities is considered true knowledge or pure knowledge, in contrast to the worldly knowledge, which is called asat. The real knowledge of soul and Brahman is sat. Sat means that is true. And worldly knowledge, that is called asat, secular knowledge, that is, which is temporary and which leads to ignorance, delusion and bondage to the cycle of birth and death. Since the knowledge of the Upanishad destroys ignorance, it is considered liberating knowledge. In his commentary on the Taittiriya Upanishad, Sri Shankaracharya suggested that Upanishad means that which led to the highest bliss. What he probably meant was that the knowledge of the Upanishad would lead to eternal bliss by destroying bondage and suffering. See, the basic nature of our soul is bliss. So when we can realize our soul, we are entering into the eternal bliss treasure. Simple thing. Bliss and soul, same thing. There is no difference between our soul and bliss, because the very nature of soul is bliss and eternal peace. A third interpretation is also possible, which lead to the same meaning. Upa, which is usually used as prefix to a verb or a noun, has several meanings. It means an advice or the instruction of a teacher, reverence or worship, and nearness or proximity in space, number, time, or degree. Traditional interpretations of the Upanishads take the last meaning into consideration. If we go by the other meanings, Upanishad means an instruction or advice by a teacher, in close proximity from a higher ground of awareness to students sitting below, regarding the destruction, shad, of ignorance, bondage, etc. Knowledge and ignorance. The two types. See, knowledge means that when we realize our soul, we realize God, Brahman. That is the knowledge. And unless we do not realize soul, God, so we are in ignorance. So The two types of knowledge are mentioned in some Upanishads, such as the Isha Upanishad and even in the Bhagavad Gita, which is considered by some as an Upanishad in its. See, our Vedanta has three basic parts. One is Upanishad, second is Brahma Sutra, and the third is Bhagavad Gita. So all these three constitute the knowledge of Vedanta. They are the knowledge of the rituals, Karma Kanda, and the knowledge of the liberation, that is Jnana Kanda. They are also alternatively described as Vidya and Avidya, knowledge and ignorance. Vidya is the knowledge of the self, that is Jnana Kanda, which leads to liberation and immortality. Those who attain it go to the world of Brahma by the sunlit path of important gods, Devyana. Avidya is the knowledge of sacrifices, rites and rituals, including worldly knowledge which helps individuals to appease gods and fulfill their desire. It leads to rebirth and suffering and extreme cases to punishment in the lower darker worlds. See, this is the conception of hell and Savarg, heaven, hell and heaven. The Upanishads, however, do not ignore the importance of worldly knowledge and the obligations of worldly life without which the world cannot continue. By renunciation of worldly life alone, one does not have to practice spirituality to achieve liberation. One can live the life of a householder and still achieve the same goal by leading a wholesome and virtuous life. Hence, they urge people to practice balance and moderation and pursue both types of knowledge. One should pursue worldly knowledge, that is avidya, to perform obligatory duties and ensure the continuation of the words and the family lineage. Once those obligations are met, one should pursue spiritual knowledge, vidya, and strive for liberation. Now, what is the importance of Upanishads in Hinduism? The Upanishads played an important role in the evolution of ancient Indian thought. Many schools of Hindu philosophy, sectarian movements, and even the later day religious like Buddhism and Jainism derived richly from the knowledge contained in them. Hinduism owes its philosophical depth to the knowledge of the Upanishads only. Otherwise, it would have remained a religion of superficial rituals and rites and become vulnerable to superstition and obscurantism. Indeed, they were largely responsible for its popularity and philosophical intellectual appeal. If today Hinduism is able to attract the attention of many contemporary thinkers and scholars from diverse backgrounds, not only from India but elsewhere, the credit goes mainly to the spiritual and philosophical knowledge of the Upanishads and their ageless wisdom. Regarding them, Schopenhauer commented thus: the access to the Vedas by means of the Upanishads is in my eyes the greatest privilege which this still young century may claim before all previous centuries. Upon reading the French translation of the Upanishads from Persian by Anquetil du Perron, he said, "It is the most satisfying and elevating reading, with the exception of the original text, which is possible in the world. It has been the solace of my life and will be the solace of my death." The age of the Upanishads. It is difficult to determine the age of the Upanishads. They were composed at different times and ages by different seers and scholars in the long history of Hinduism. Some, like the Brihadaranyaka, Chandogya, Taittiriya, Aitreya, and Kaustubhi Upanishads are the oldest, which some were composed during the medieval period up to 17th and 18th centuries. The oldest Upanishads, or at least portion of them, were probably composed during the early Vedic period, when the Vedas themselves were in formative stages, and the Atharvaveda, the fourth in the series, was yet to be formally recognized as a Veda. Some were, some were probably composed in the later Vedic period. The oldest Upanishads are also probably renditions or fragments of the earlier Upanishads. There is little doubt that the knowledge and philosophy of the Upanishad has evolved over time through the contribution of many seers, masters, and self-realized souls. As a result, they acquired greater depth and complexity for which they are known today. There is also no unanimity as to their number. There might have been 300 Upanishads or so in the past. Most of them were lost due to the secrecy associated with them and the restrictions imposed upon their teaching by the tradition. The principal Upanishads are 108, of which the major Upanishads are about 12 or 13, namely Aitreya, Chandogya, Brihadaranyaka, Taittiriya, Kaustubhi, Shvetashwara, Kena, Katha, Maitrayani, Isha, Mandukya, Mundaka, Prashna. About 30 or so are also classified as minor Upanishads, since their knowledge seems to be derived from previous Upanishads. The main teachings of the Upanishad. The Upanishads occupy an important place in Hinduism as an important branch of spiritual knowledge, which is conducive to liberation. They, along with the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedanta Sutras, that is Brahma Sutra, are considered Prasthantraya, the triple means to the great journey of liberation. However, the Upanishads are not well structured or systematic. The same chapter or section may contain many ideas loosely put together, without any correlation between one verse and the other. You may also find in them repetitions and redundant information. The following are the important topics and recurring themes which are frequently found in most Upanishads. Brahman. He is the universal supreme self, the highest god of Hinduism, who is the source of all and the destination of all. He is described as the indestructible, eternal, indestructible, mysterious, supreme being who is both known and unknown, with form and without form, and transcendental and immanent. Atma. He is the individual self, an aspect of Brahman, who is pure, eternal, indescribable, and indestructible in his transcendental state. In the field of nature, he becomes the embodied self, that is Jivatma, experiences duality and undergoes numerous births and deaths until his liberation. Prakriti. See, our body has three parts. One is the physical body, which is the skeleton, bones, and second is subtle body, ethereal body, that is called. That is your mind, your intellect, all these things, prana, upaprana. So this constitutes the subtle body, ethereal body. Third is causal body, Karan Sarir. So that is associated with soul. Then Prakriti. She is the material aspect of Brahman, who provides materiality, dynamism, diversity, and change to the manifested reality of Brahman. She is the active principle of Brahman, divisible but indestructible. See, we know matter cannot be destroyed, it can be given different shapes. Who manages the entire creation with her innumerable powers, Shaktis, and deluding nature, that is Maya. Creation. The Upanishads contain many verses which describe how the creation happened. They describe Brahman as the source of all creation. According to them, creation was an act of personal sacrifice by Brahman. In the beginning, there was Brahma only, nothing else existed. Then he became many and manifested the world and beings, devas. The gods are aspects of Brahman. They may know him or may not know him or may know him partially. They play an important role in creation and represent Brahman in their highest and purest state. Their hierarchy in creation depends upon their knowledge of Brahman and purity. Organs. The organs in the body are partial manifestation of Brahman. They are also considered devas in the microcosms of beings. They are vulnerable to evil influences and desire redone actions. Breath in their Lord. They remain in the body as long as the body is alive. Upon death, they leave the body and depart to their respective spheres. See here, organ means our five organs of, that is the five or sense organs. Sacrifice. The Om. Upanishads such as the Mandukya contain reference to the, see, the sacrifice is not the part of Upanishads. Sacrifice, that is, it is misunderstood actually speaking. Om. Upanishads such as the Mandukya contain references to the sacred symbol Om and its correlation with Brahman. They describe Om as Brahman in the form of word Akshara Brahma. Each syllable in it has a symbolic significance. They represent the different states and forms of Brahman. Since it is a Brahman himself, by meditating upon it and chanting it, one can become pure and attain a liberation. Then death. It is one of the recurring themes in the Upanishads and described as one of the first manifestations of Brahman. Death rules our world, hence ours is a mortal world. He is the great devourer who devours everything. Devour means destroy everything, and whose hunger is insatiable. All that exists here is his food and end up becoming his food. In the sacrifice of life, all beings become the offering to the god of death. Yoga. References to yoga are found in several Upanishads. Some Upanishads are also known as Yoga Upanishads, since they exclusively deal with the theory and practice of yoga. Frequent references to yoga in the Upanishads prove beyond doubt that the practice of yoga is rooted in the knowledge of the Upanishad and integral to Hindu. See, now the term yoga is completely misconceived. It is misunderstood. Now doing some asanas and mudras and all is known as yoga as on today. But yoga actually means uniting the soul with Brahman. That is the actual meaning of yoga. But nowadays it is all doing some asanas and all, pranayam and all. So that is misunderstood. Rebirth. The Upanishads explain the process of rebirth, what happens when a person dies, how the soul leaves the body and departs to the world of ancestors, how it returns to the earth and takes another birth. They also explain the circumstances which lead to rebirth. According to the Upanishad, both men and women play an important role in the transmigration of souls and both act as carriers. I'll explain this reincarnation in another video. Now, next term is karma. The idea of karma is mentioned in some earliest Upanishads such as the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. They explain how desire-ridden actions subject the body to impurities and lead to the rebirth of the souls in the mortal world, which those who indulge in most sinful actions fall down into the lower worlds and are reborn as women and insects. Worms and insects. Liberation. The ultimate goal of the Upanishad is to help humans achieve liberation by overcoming their desires, ignorance and delusion. They explain the importance of cultivating purity through detachment and renunciation, and by contemplating upon the self. According to the Upanishads, liberation means freedom from birth and death. Mahavakyas. The wisdom of the Upanishad is often condensed into short statements or phrases which are traditionally used in spiritual discussions and contemplation. They are known as Mahavakyas. The Upanishads contain important Mahavakyas such as Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma. Prajnam Brahma, Brahma is intelligence. Tat Tavam Asi, you are that. Apart from the above, the Upanishads also contain references to the esoteric rituals, anecdotes about seers and sages, important conversations and dialogues about the self or Brahman, references to the historic events and ancient belief systems, social and religious practices, caste system, status of women and nature of consciousness and types of spiritual knowledge, that is Brahma Vidya, etc. Conclusion. The Upanishads elevate our thoughts and expand our awareness. They not only represent the unity and oneness of the whole existence, but also remind us of our unity and oneness with Brahman. Since we are divine beings who possess the spark of Brahman and represent his consciousness and beingness as his aspect, it becomes obligatory on our part to live up to the lofty vision they represent and elevate our consciousness into still greater heights. From the Upanishads, we learn this. A devotee may worship God in initial stages, but eventually he must overcome his limitations and become God in word and deed so that he manifests the best and the highest in him. Through perseverance, faith and purity, he must transcend mortality and enter the realm of Brahman. This is the most important message of the Upanishad. Truly, the Upanishads are the greatest contribution of India and Hinduism to the religious and philosophical wisdom of the world. There is no exaggeration in stating that even a cursory study of the Upanishads is bound to change our thinking and ways of living. They point to the possibilities and opportunities that await us in the spiritual realm. Unfortunately, although the knowledge of the Upanishads is now freely available to all, many Hindus still tend to focus on the knowledge of the rituals rather than the knowledge of the Upanishads. It is probably how the world is meant to be, as the Bhagavad Gita suggests. Out of millions of people, only a few people inspire to pursue the knowledge of the self and liberation. So, here actually Upanishads, their focus is liberation. The liberation means we are free from the cycle of death and birth. That is the main aim of, that is the main meaning of liberation. Upanishads, they focus on meditation part, not on the karma. As per Upanishad, karma and liberation both are not much correlated. See, people they go for charity and all, so these things they purify our mind, our wisdom. But for liberation, we have to destroy our ego. That is the most important part. Because in day-to-day life, we are related to people through our ego, through our mind. Soul of each individual is same. The basic nature of soul is bliss and eternal peace. So our day-to-day connection with other people is through our ego. Now ego means false I. We have two types of I. One is the true I, that is our soul. The other one is the false I, that is our ego. Now this ego is nothing but ignorance. When we identify ourselves with the body, so this identification of I with the body is known as ego. So we have to destroy this ego. All these subtle impressions collected in the previous births constitute our chit. Impressions are stored. So our day-to-day work, what we do, that is known as karma. See, karma, when we think about something, repeatedly think about something, then it constitutes our subtle impressions, what we call as sanskaras. And these thoughts, they embedded in our chit, and we call them as vasanas, propensities. These vasanas are completely controlling our life. See, sometimes we may determine not to do this thing, that thing and all, but we are compelled to do the same thing. Why? Because we are completely controlled by our vasanas, completely controlled by our sanskaras. That is the main thing. So, in Western psychology, people they say conscious mind, subconscious mind, unconscious mind, superconscious mind. When we discuss something with other people, that time our conscious mind is working. See, we may promise to do something, we may determine to do something, that is with the help of our conscious mind, but finally we find that we are not able to do the thing what we have promised to do. Why? Because our actions are controlled by our subconscious mind. Dear friends, this subconscious mind is nothing but our soul. Remember this. This is a very, very tricky question. Our mind is nothing but the repeated thoughts arising from the soul constitute our mind. So there is nothing like that subconscious mind, superconscious mind, unconscious mind. When we are talking in awake position, when we are awake, That time we discuss, we think, we describe so many things. That is our conscious mind, that is mind. But our actually source of power for the mind is our soul. Each and every part of our body derives power from the soul. Even pranas, they are source of pranas in our body is soul. For each and every part of the body that is driving the power and force from the soul only. So that is the very basic thing. So what we have in mind, we must destroy our ego. The conception of identification of the I with the body, that is ego. We have to destroy this conception. Then only we can realize our soul. Until unless we destroy the ego and mind, we cannot realize our soul. That is the basic purpose. When the ego is destroyed, mind is destroyed, and we are completely vanishing our tamasic and rajasic basic natures and enter into the sattvic nature. See, sattvic nature, all spiritual people, advanced spiritual people, their nature is sattvic. Our complete nature, is divided into three parts. One is rajasic, then tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. People who are called holy, who are called sages, who are called mahatmas, their nature is sattvic, means associated with purity and truth. Tamasic means people who are completely indulging this worldly affairs, worldly life. Those they are tamasic in nature. They are not worried about who is God, what is soul, and all. They are nowhere near to the spiritual and religious aspects. Then Rajasic means people who are, more worried about their name and fame. They are very active people. So they are, and those who are completely inclined towards God, towards spiritual aspect of life, they are called sattvic. So, dear friends, this topic was about Upanishads. Time to time I will take different topics and explain. So my dear friend, I have a request to make. Please comment, like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.